Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to 𝐒𝐢𝐬 𝐷𝐄𝐈𝐄𝐲. Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you're really excited for the festivities that are about to reach us all, and I hope you get to spend some nice time with your family and friends at the same time. Today we're going to take a look at SimTrack's Train Life Railway Simulator. This game is in early access, backed by Nacon, and I'm not surprised because this game has huge amounts of potential. It is in early access, it's not fully complete, it's not fully realised. This is not, however, my first look, even though this is going to be called the first look video. I recently upgraded to Windows 11, and what it did, very kindly, was detach or disconnect all of my microphones and audio and everything, so I've got like an hour's worth of tutorials with no sound whatsoever, which is no good to anybody. So here I am doing my first look review again. And what I can say straight off the bat that I couldn't say before is that this is a heck of a lot of game for just £13.39. It's a bit of an odd price, £13.39, but I tell you what, you are getting a lot for your money. That is a big bang for buck right there. It's not photorealistic, but it definitely is realistic. There's no blur, there's no pop-in per se. It's a very accomplished little game, still in early access and looking very impressive. For the first time in a railroad simulation, players, both the driver and company director, take the controls of your locomotives and grow your railway empire by negotiating deals and developing your network. On paper at least, that sounds sensational. But there are a few issues. It is an early access game, so this is quite usual, quite normal. I'm going to start a new game, and I'm going to type in my details here. 𝐒𝐢𝐬, nationality. Oddly, my nationality is not English or British. My nationality is United Kingdom. So I think maybe nationality needs to change, or just put flags in. That works as well. Where is United Kingdom? Where am I looking? United Kingdom, there we go. There's only 2 avatars, male or female. Company name is Better Than Dovetail Games. And in some regards it is, and in other regards it isn't. Company logo, I think it'd be really nice if we could upload our own logo, but at the moment that certainly isn't an option. Starting location, mostly Germany. A little bit of Luxembourg, Netherlands, Belgium and France. Only one location for the UK, so we'll start in London, UK, and we'll leave it on default career options, and we'll enable the tutorial. So for this first look gameplay review, I'm just going to be doing the tutorial, or the tutorials, and it's pretty decent, but there are some issues.
As you near your graduation of the conductor's exam, we commend you on your dream of starting your own railway transportation business. Before you graduate, we just need one final example of what you know, and some time behind the throttle won't hurt. After all, as an aspiring employer, it's best to be a shining example for your future employees. We've set up this short course in Germany for you to refresh your skills and show us what you've learned. Start by familiarizing yourself with the locomotive's controls, then follow the instructions through the next few scenarios, and you'll be off on your own in no time at all. Take your time, but try not to derail the train. Management will have my head if a fresh graduate wrecks our training locomotive.
Now, I've not actually tried to crash the loco. I don't know if you can. Maybe that's something for the end of the video, perhaps, if I remember. But yeah, this is it. I mean, this is not... It's not photorealistic. You can see some of the textures are not 4K. But it's pretty darn realistic. I think they've oversimplified the controls and such, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It does mean it's not really a simulator, but most of the buttons are clickable, and I tell you what, I think they've done a fantastic job here. If we just jump outside a second, you can see that the track distance is quite long. There is a maximum amount of distance that the track is drawn. The train locomotive itself, relatively detailed, not bad at all, and I think there's like 2 or 3 different trains available in the tutorial. There's no free look camera, which is a bit of a problem, and the camera does do stuff like that. It's got like really poor collision detection. Boom, up we go to the scaffolding. So, I mean, there's some work that needs to be done there. There's a few issues. And if you get too low down, it's not doing it now, but at some point it will. If you get too low down, it also jumps into the train like that. But not badly modelled at all. Sadly, you can't get out and walk around. That would be nice. That's definitely something that Dovetail Games added to their game, and I think it's a positive. Not that they've really done much with it, to be fair, but yeah, that would be something that's really nice. Thing is, though, right, every complaint and issue I have with this game, or recommendation for improvement, or a wish list of things I'd like to see instead, you have to come back to the fact that this game is just £13.39. It's insanely cheap for what you get already, regardless of how well polished it is or the features that are not there that would be nice to have. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to say right now, I would be more than willing to pay twice the price that they're asking for to add things in like turntables, actual coupling and decoupling of carriages, etc. I would love to see all of that. The ability to get out and walk around, that would be fantastic. But this is not currently available. And I mean, they're big wish list items. Maybe that's something that can't even be envisaged until Train Life: A Railway Simulator 2 or something like that. But regardless, it's already delivering a huge amount of goodness. So enough intro rubbish. Let's jump in. Let's get started. So W is the increase the accelerator. S is reduce the accelerator. E is to increase the brake. D is to reduce the brake. It does have partial controller support, but for this video I am just going to be using either the mouse or the keyboard, just because it's a first look review, so I don't want to get too involved in it just yet. I don't know if you can use hot ass throttles, etc. It only says partial controller support, so I don't know how much chance there is of that. I have a rail driver. I might give that a try and see if it works with this. That would be really nice if it does. But yeah, you've also got the business aspect of the game, which I'm not 100% sold on at the moment. We'll talk about it more as we progress through the tutorial. Right, top left hand corner, objective 3 out of 16 is to toggle the headlights on and off. Now, if I press T, that will do it for me, but I should be able to do it here as well. Now, you'll notice that that does not complete that objective. And I wasn't sure in my first Let's Play... Oh, hang on. That's the dead man switch. K is the button to turn that off, by the way, because the game does not tell you at all in the tutorial. Very silly mistake. That's another thing they need to sort out in the tutorial. But yeah, switching this manually does not progress the tutorial. I have to press T. And there you go. Now it's happy, even though it's just done exactly the same thing I did. But, interestingly, which makes me think it's a bug, if you want to change the cabin lights, that does progress if you do it on the dash. So I think that's just a mistake. An enormous emergency brake, which is controlled by your spacebar. And up is off and down is on. And I got into a bit of trouble last time because I got that back to front. Let's go. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner we've got all the information about what the train is doing. We've got on the outer edge of that circle, we've got a 10% in blue. That's how much accelerator I'm putting in. We've also got a red one, which is how much brake you're putting in. And down the bottom you've got lights, reverser, handbrake, and in the bottom right hand corner you've actually got wheel slip, which is kind of cool. Right. So let's get ourselves up to 20 kilometers an hour. One thing I will say is that the tutorial requires you to leave the accelerator on at 20 kilometers an hour for about a second and a half before it recognizes it. If I turn it off now, you can see I hit 20 kilometers an hour, but the objective hasn't progressed. So you have to leave it on a little bit longer or even go over 20 miles an hour, and that allows you to progress to the next stage. So I'm going to put the brake on. slow the train right down. And then press D just to put it in the middle. So when you're completely stopped, you can press R, and that'll swap the reverser here. You can do it with the mouse, click, or with the R button. Entirely up to you. That little indicator comes on here, and obviously on the bottom right hand corner you get the little R pop up. So we just do the same thing. Bit of wheel slip, you'll notice, because I went to 20%. And exactly the same thing. You've got to stay on 20 kilometers an hour for a little bit before it recognizes it as being a completion of the objective. Right, so we're just going to roll back a little way here because I need to be past the points. C takes you to the external cameras. I like this little pan camera, that's quite nice. And then it auto defaults to that, which again, is quite nice. Emergency handbrake on. And we'll go back inside. Now, if I press R again, the reverser will revert back to forwards. And if I press Q, you can see that the left and right in the bottom left-hand corner is switching the points. Now, you don't actually see them switch. There's no actual animation for the point switching. It's all recorded down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen and over here. So in 15 meters, left or right on the switch. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like that should be the driver's responsibility. In some circumstances, yes, it should be. For example, if you're doing some sort of shunting work, then yes, you're probably going forward and backwards and so on and so forth, so it would be your job. But when you're taking passengers from station A to station B, I kind of feel like that should be dealt with elsewhere. But that's my personal opinion. Let me know your thoughts on that. Okay, so we've got to change the switch to the right. Take the emergency handbrake off because you cannot move any of the levers if the emergency brake is on. That also took me a little while to figure out. And yeah, that's the basic controls directive for the game. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard, and actually I find it more intuitive than Dovetail Games implementation WSAD. So the fact that you can now change that, you're welcome everybody, on Dovetail Games, I think I might go and change that because this actually feels more intuitive with WS, E and D, although I might be tempted to swap E and D around. But anyway, right. There we go. Look around, identify the throttle lever and increase it at least one step by holding the mouse button and doing such. It's a little bit sensitive, but not too bad. Now do the same with the brake. And there you go. That's that tutorial completed. Fantastic. So, although this is called Simulator, it's not a hardcore simulator at all. There is some decent audio in the game. The modelling, again, we've got a different loco now. The modelling, I think, is very decent. Again, it's not photorealistic, and if you get too low, the camera does this, as mentioned before. But yeah, I mean, we got a little driver in there. He's fairly well animated. I think he's a bit too short for this train, personally, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's very detailed, the loco itself. And the surrounding area, I think it looks really nice, really quite vibrant and realistic. There's no blur, there's no FPS drop. It's very, very decent. But it's not got this sort of level of audio that's required for a simulator, in my opinion. It would need a lot more work on that front if it was trying to do that. Just checking to see if the window's open. They don't. I don't suspect that there's any audio occlusion. You cannot get up out of your seat. You cannot walk around, which is a bit of a shame because, I mean, it's an Unreal Engine and that's what Dovetail Games are using, so we know it is possible. And it looks to be very, very well designed and perfectly capable. Maybe that's something they're thinking about in the future. I have absolutely no idea. Alright, so let's drive forward to the service centre. Emergency handbrake off, bit of wheel spin. Now, there are radio comms in the game, but unlike Rail Sim or Sim Rail, whichever way around that is, the new game that's just released a prologue, we don't actually have spoken radio communication, which is a bit of a shame. Trying to slow the train down here in a bit of an incline, a decline rather. You can see the train wants to go, it wants to go, go, go. Nice bit of audio there as we go over the change points, and you can see that the train moves about and it sort of wobbles and stuff. And when you brake heavily, like if I put the handbrake on, you can see I'm leaning forward in my seat. Stuff like that is really nice to see. Obviously they do have that in Dovetail games. They didn't when it first came out. So yeah, I'd say pretty good. Maybe those trees are moving a little bit too much in my opinion, making me somewhat seasick. But I'm going to show you a little bug here. It's just a tiny bug, but this is more for the developers than for you as a consumer. And the way that the business element works, I'm not really that taken with it, I'll be honest with you. The radio comms, as I mentioned, every time you come up to a station you have to radio ahead and tell them that you're coming in. That's to pick up passengers, drop off cargo, etc, etc, etc. I don't know, it feels a bit micromanaged and unnecessary. It's not very realistic. Whoops, I accidentally put the throttle on as well as the brake. Right, so I'm going to go to the external cam here. I'm going to try and get as close to the edge of this as I can without crashing into it. Okay, I'm going to crash into it. So I banged into the end, which I didn't mean to do, but you can see they don't actually touch. They're not actually touching, so that's something that I'd like to see addressed. Basically just moving either the barrier further forward or the point that you can no longer, the block, if you will, a little further back, just so that it does connect properly. Now the other thing here is if I'm pressing F to enter the service centre, it doesn't actually work. What I need to do, and again in my first attempt at this, it took me a while to figure this out, just need to back it up just a couple of feet and then stop, and now I can go into the service centre. Pressing the wrong key here, there we go. Let's put the handbrake on, there we go. So this is quite nice. You come in here, you can repair locos, you can refuel them, you can change game mode. We're in cargo mode at the moment. You can add wagons, you can manage locomotives, you can buy new locomotives, you can upgrade your locomotives. These are all really nice, very exciting features. So we'll just fix and refuel the train that we've got. It says locate the reverse train direction button and press it. Now, this is where I started to see things that I would like to see changed, things on my wish list where I'm happy to pay more money to see it realised. But I would love for this to be like, to actually be able to drive into this area and then have a turnstile in order to turn the train round. But here, unfortunately, you click on this and you'll see the train just swaps around. Okay, that works, it's functional, no real problem with it, but I would love to be able to drive in and actually have a turnstile turn. If you remember in Dovetail games, on the very first Dovetail games Train Sim World release that they released, there was a turnstile there, and things looked incredibly impressive. Everybody was excited by that game because it just looked insanely good. I don't think any release since then has had a turnstile in it. So they produced something really quite excellent to start with and then just sort of dialed it down with every release thereafter. Bit of a shame. I'd like to see this game do the exact opposite of that. I'd like to see it start like this and evolve into something more impressive and more exciting. That's my hope. Depends on how popular the game is and what everybody else wants, I guess. These are just my wish list ideas. If you've got any ideas and suggestions, I'm very excited to hear about them. So do let me know in the comments. Right, let's turn the handbrake off. Give it... Whoa, 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 whoa. I did this. I did this earlier as well. Turn reverse off, handbrake off, and now let's go. Bit of wheel slip, but you don't see any sparks, you don't hear any audio. So it's good that they've got wheel slip. Again, this is early access. Maybe these are things that are coming later on. You can see the camera is definitely not working well. Cannot get down low to see the trucks and stuff. Can't even see if the wheels are spinning with this camera, but whatever. I think the surrounding area is pretty detailed, pretty nice. I am impressed with that. Very nice indeed, in fact. Okay, going to do my best to stay within the speed limits. Currently 40, changing to 30. .40 I think is a bit fast for that bit of track there, to be honest with you. I think that should be 10, 15, maybe 20 at the most. But I mean, these are things that... Things like this are what... Now... I tried to say this earlier, I think. It's difficult to know who they're actually aiming this at, because if you're aiming this at hardcore train enthusiasts, you're going to have to deliver a lot more attention to detail than they currently are. You know, like down the bottom there, it certainly shouldn't be 40 kilometers an hour coming up to the end of a track. That's just insane. That's going to cause nothing but problems. But I mean, you know, we're going up an incline here. You can see that the train is struggling to go up. I'm having to give it more power just to maintain 12 kilometers. So there is the physics appear to be pretty decent. There is wheel slip, although there's a lack of audio and no sort of sparks or anything like that coming off of it. But yeah, I mean, there is stuff that's good and there's stuff that definitely could be improved. And like I say, it just depends who they're aiming this at, and it's not really clear who they're aiming stuff at, because it's called a simulator, as are many games, but it's more like Euro Truck Simulator for trains, especially the way in which you pick up cargo, including passengers. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but it's not hardcore sim. Definitely not hardcore sim. See the dead man switch there, the alarm was going off, but it didn't actually stop the train. You can't hear it when you're outside in the external cam, which maybe is not a great idea. Oh, I'm speeding. Oh, I thought it was 40 down here, my bad. Okay. So it looks like I've got to stop at the green marker. There's a broken down train in front of us and we need to swap tracks. So what we're going to do is slow the train right down, and then we're going to press Q, and in the bottom left hand corner you'll see that the switch has now changed to the right. We can release the brake and increase the accelerator, or the throttle as I should say. Oh, oh, an approaching train has been spotted. What? Where's the approaching train? Oh, does it just mean the broken down train? I think it does. I think the tutorial's pretty decent, but there's definitely some stuff that isn't really mentioned properly. And, or at all, in fact, like which button it is to turn off the dead man switch when the alarm is going. And the alarm for the dead man switch is super loud, which is good because you'll hear it, but as you notice it doesn't actually stop the train, so I'm not sure that's working properly at the moment. Oh, continue driving until you reach the service centre. Okay. Again, a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit here just seems ridiculous. The surrounding area and the detail on the buildings, etc. is pretty nice. Again, it's not photorealistic, but it is very realistic. I'm quite impressed with it, I must say. It looks incredible. If this saves... I mean, the FPS seems to be very solid, and the draw distance on the track is vastly better than it is in Dovetail games, which just kind of spawns right in front of you, and it's horrible to look at. Here, it does the same thing, but it's so much further away that unless you're zoomed in, you don't actually notice it at all. Okay, driving and rules. Next tutorial, here we go. In this tutorial, you will learn how to deliver a contract from one station to another. Firstly, you need to select a contract from the nearest station. You can use the radio for communicating with stations by pressing the A button. So we're going to communicate with the forest. The forest will provide us with trees. We'll take the trees to the lumber mill, and the lumber mill will do whatever they do with them. So we go number 3, services. We go number 3, take. And we go number 2, contract. It does say here we have one contract available. Which are you interested in? Which is a logic bug. It should say, if there's only one available, it should say, are you interested in this particular one? But I mean, that's a small thing. It's an early access game. That can be fixed in time. So we're going to take number 2, and we're going to take automatically. And right, so now we can press A again to close that off. And one thing that I don't like much about the game is it didn't really explain to me what these blue markers were. But basically, in a nutshell, the blue markers indicate the entrance or exit of a location. So the forest, once you go past the blue markers, brings you into the forest location. Equally, when you're getting permission to enter an area like this, because you have to have permission before you go in, otherwise you get fined. When you go in, you will not be told which platform you need to go to. You have to kind of look ahead and try and see where you've got to go to, and then make sure you change the switches to get where you're supposed to be. I'm not very taken with that, I'll be honest with you. Again, 40 kilometers an hour just seems a little bit too fast for this area, but it does allow us to put the old pedal to the metal. And I'm pretty sure I can just stop anywhere. So if I just put the brakes on, doesn't really matter where I stop, it seems, because it's, I guess because I'm in automatic mode, I don't know. But there's no actual coupling and decoupling of the cargo, which is a bit of a shame, I've got to be honest. You press U, it takes you to this screen, and there we go. It's all just on there immediately. So now if I drive further forwards, so if I release the brake, you can see the train is definitely struggling to move forward now because it's got all that extra weight on. So we're getting a lot of wheel slippage, which means I'm a terrible train driver, and I don't care. It is nice that we've got wheel slippage, but there's no audio to reinforce that. There's no visual notification either. So obviously accelerating is harder when you've got a load, and by proxy slowing down takes longer. So it's good to see that the physics appear to be in place. And what we've got to do is come down here. I mean, I'm not really keen on this. I don't like this even in like Railway Empire, when basically what you do is you roll up, you click a button, and the whole train and all the cargo just swaps around to the other side. I'm not a big fan of that. I'd much rather there be a turnstile, or you have to actually physically turn around properly. Nice bit of audio there. Okay, so we go into the service centre. And we reverse the train direction. Go back to the game. And now you see that the train has just turned around. Not a big fan of that, I'll be honest with you. I'd rather just have to do it myself. But, I mean, it's £13 this game. And I think you're getting a lot of game for a very small amount of money there. I'm impressed with it, I really am. If you've got any thoughts though, please do let me know in the comments section. I'd love to read your input and your thoughts on this. I haven't tried the career yet, I've just done the tutorial. But I will be putting together some footage of the career. Hopefully a few more bits and bobs. And then I'll put a review together based on what I've been able to look at. Which is going to obviously include a few recommendations, a few wish list items. So if you've got any wish list items that you'd like to see, let me know, because I'm quite happy to chuck that into the review as well. Hopefully when the devs take a look at it, they'll be able to get some sort of useful feedback, community-led feedback off the back of that. And I have to say thanks to the devs, because they did send me this key, and apologies because it's taken me a while to get to it. Things have been happening here in the real world which have limited the amount of time I've had on my PC, so I've not really been able to do that. You can see we're just leaving the forest entrance now, and once we get a certain distance through it, it will say no longer capable of interacting with the forest or something like that. Or sometimes it does, and this time it's not going to. Just to be awkward. Alright, okay. There's the dead man switch again, going off but not actually doing anything. I'd like to see that fixed, definitely. I'd also like to have some sort of visual indicator outside. Maybe one of those little icons in the bottom right hand corner would be good. Right, let's see if we can get up to the speed limit here. It's 60 at the moment, it goes up to 80 in a second, and then it drops back down to 50, 40, 30. And it's all pretty good. We've got a bit of an incline to get up first. Oh, speeding away. Luckily we're still in the yellow, so we're not going to get told off for that. You no longer have access to forest, so it takes quite a while to get away from forest. Right, so now I need to go to the radio. No, there we go. The sawmill's just popped up. And we need to go services, number 4 to deliver, number 2 a contract. Just need to give us a bit more welly, bit of wheel spin going up this incline. And we're going to deliver 3 wagons from the forest. And we're going to deliver manually. And then we press A to close the radio. So I'm not sure if I mean the radio kind of makes sense in this scenario. But you also have to do it, it seems, when you're dropping passengers off. I'm not sure that's very realistic. I'm not sure I'm very taken with that. But that's just my 2 pennies worth. I'm interested in yours, really. Bit of wheel spin. Just trying to keep the speed under 60. We can just let the train pretty much roll from this point on. And if you're looking at the external details, you can see there's a bit of copy and paste repetition here. Like the some of the boards on the side, you'll see the same paintings, the same stuff over and over and over again. But at £13, you are going to see that kind of shortcut taken. I would personally prefer if there were more blank panels and just the occasional one with a bit of spray paint on. That would look more realistic. But I mean, that's being really picky. Overall though, I think it looks pretty fantastic. And you can see what I'm saying about the track distance. If you look in a zoomed way, I mean, in this particular scenario, you can't actually see where the track ends, but there is an end point. But it's much further away than it is in Train Sim World. It does look a lot better than it does in Train Sim World. I'm not comparing the two in an overall stance, Train Sim World is more of a simulator than this is, but there are certain things that have always been rather unpopular in Train Sim World, and they've not fallen into the same trap here despite using the same engine. So I think it's better in that regard. Maybe, you know, a bit of impetus there for Dovetail Games to improve their own game in that regard, because it is possible regardless of what they tell you is the truth, and here is the proof of it, I guess. I'm not sure that the speed feels quite right. I'll have to play with it a bit more to really sort of tell, but I'm not sure this feels like 34 kilometers. It feels a bit slow, maybe. So I've already got access to permission to enter. And you can see the track ahead is in orange. That's where I need to go to now. I need to change the track again. Sorry, change the point again so that I'm on the right track. And yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, this is quite a lot of game for £13, right? Got a bit of a tickly throat. I'm just going to have some coffee, guys. So this is manual decoupling. Just make sure I've got the whole train within the marker. Put the brakes on. Come to a nice gradual stop. Press the U button, and this is where you decouple. You can press, I think, how does this work? There's only one decoupling this time, but we'll decouple here by pressing enter. It's a shame you can't manually decouple. I would like to see that. The ability to get out of your seat, walk around and decouple it manually, that's what I'd really like to see in this game. Maybe that's too much to ask for the first edition, I don't know. Maybe it's on the cards at some point. Right, so this is passenger/postage gameplay. The tutorial has a few gaps in it, which I'll paste over, but yeah, there's a few things that aren't really mentioned very well or explained very well during the tutorials, but I'll try and avoid that. And before I forget, one thing you'll notice, and again, if they're aiming this at proper train enthusiasts, then you've got to look at the details a little bit more. When we pull into the station, you'll see just how far away the platform is from the train, and that is not going to fly with hardcore train fans at all. That will need to be sorted out. Equally, passengers getting on and off the trains appears not to be a thing. Whether or not that's going to be in the future, I don't know. But things like that would need to be looked at. As I've already said, if they can add that kind of stuff to the game, I would be happy to pay more than £13. This is a lot of game for £13, and my real problem with it is it's so good for £13. I would like to pay more money and see what else they can do. See how more realistic they can make it. That's my argument. But anyway, let's focus on passengers for a bit here. In this tutorial, you will learn how to deliver passengers from one station to another. Start by going to the nearest service centre and adding some passenger wagons. Note that you also need a locomotive capable of transporting them, as well as the proper game mode, which can be selected from any service centre. However, this time you are already starting in the appropriate mode. Handbrake off. Give it a bit of power. Now you see this green marker here. Even though there's no building around, there's no physical reason to suspect that this is a service centre. This is a service centre. You can see it's just popped up there. Service Centre Theendorf. So just stop here, press the F key, and basically it's just an area on the track where you can get access to this screen. So if we come down here to adding wagons, we're going to add a passenger wagon and a postage wagon. It doesn't really tell you what to add, I don't think. So I just I went with this setup earlier, and it worked okay, so I'll do the same thing. Passenger and postage transportation is performed on a player-defined route. You can set it up using your tablet. Open it with M and go to the route planner tab. Now, if you press M, nothing happens. You have to go back to the game first. That's a kind of logic issue in the tutorial there. But now if I press M and come up here to route planner, you can see that we can pick 𝐵𝑖𝑛𝐷orf and then 𝐵𝑖𝑛𝐷orf North. This is stop 1, this is stop 2. It's important that you add them in the correct order. And that's pretty much it. Open station communication with A and contact the first station, this one. Select services and passengers boarding to announce your arrival. Now that I'm not really keen on. I'm going to apply this to GPS. Now the GPS has had a few issues and they released a patch on it today. But the GPS for me still keeps losing signal, so I don't know what's going on there. But let's press escape to go back to the train. And you can see where the blue marker is. I need to have contacted 𝐵𝑖𝑛𝐷orf South, services, passenger boarding, and it says 𝐵𝑖𝑛𝐷orf South here. We are waiting for you. Go to the station and proceed to the indicated track. Over. So at this point, I'm very much of the opinion that I've no idea which track I'm supposed to be on. There doesn't appear to be any indicated track that I can see. Now on the map it looks like the middle one, but that's not necessarily correct. I don't know to be sure. But let's put some power in. Okay. Oh, I've got the brake on, that's why. So I've got the Q button to switch the track. So I think I need to go left at this one, which will take me over onto the left-hand track, and I'm still trying to pinpoint where I'm supposed to be stopping. Oh, you can see it's over there on the left. So it's not the middle one actually, it's the left-hand one. I think that needs to be better indicated. Maybe tell me which track I need to be on, or which platform. Oh, hang on. Yeah, okay, I've gone too early here. Let's just back it up a bit. A bit more than that. Okay. So we'll put it into forward gear. We'll change the track so that it's now on the right. Reduce the brake, increase the throttle. So I don't want to go left here, I want to go left here. In which case, I think I'm on the wrong flipping line completely. Yes, I am. Oh. This is a different mistake than I made earlier, but equally, I think it reinforces the fact that it doesn't very clearly indicate which platform you're supposed to be on at an appropriate time, if that makes sense. So you can't really do this in a train. You can't keep going forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. You know, unless you're shunting in the yard, this would be very much frowned upon, I imagine. Okay, so we stop the train. We're going to go back into the main. There you go. See the dead man switch going off again, but not actually doing anything. So we're going to change to forwards. We're going to keep this on right. And this time we're going to try and get the right. So we don't want this one. We want the next one. But it really isn't very well proven, if you will. And now I have to switch it to left. And we're finally coming in on the correct track. The stations themselves, I think they're pretty decent. I don't think they're like-for-like recreations of anywhere. I could be totally wrong. If you know the answer to that, please let me know in the comments. But they look reasonably decent. I did mention earlier the distance between the train and the platform. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, that's gargantuan. People would die trying to get on this particular train. So we'll just make sure that we're on the platform, or the whole train is on the platform when all the carriages are on the platform. And we'll start to apply a brake. Nice bit of detail on the information board up there. I'm not sure that's actually accurate, but it's difficult to read it, so I don't know for sure. Passengers, you can see there's 2 passengers there, but nobody actually gets on the train. If I press V, so I put the emergency brake on first and I press V, top right hand corner, opening doors, the systems will remain blocked. So you can't drive off whilst the doors are opening. But the doors don't actually open. Nobody actually gets on or off the train. Again, if the only reason for that is money, then I personally would be willing to pay more money to have passengers get on and off the train. But maybe that's not who they're aiming this game at. That's the thing. They call it a simulator, but they don't adhere to realistic behaviours. That's my issue with the term simulator. Alright, so I press V again and you can see top right hand corner. It's now closing doors. Some trains have 2 locomotives or reverse facing cabins so they can drive in both directions with better visibility. Press switch cabin button inside the train cabin or from the radial menu, left shift, to switch between the front and back locomotive or reverse facing cabins. Now earlier on it did ask you to do something on the radial menu, but it didn't tell you to press left shift. So again, there's another issue in the tutorial there. We don't get out and reverse the train, we just reverse the train, handbrake off, and away we go. Pretty easy stuff. Again, audio is slightly lacking for me. Well, actually, it's lacking quite a bit for me to be a hardcore sim. Certainly not getting any immersion, but the small amount of audio that there is quite decent. And like I say, the modelling of the train is rather nice. I'm not sure that's like an officially licensed train, but it's pretty nicely modelled. Trying to keep the speed at a constant as we go over this slight incline. Speed goes up to 60. So we no longer have access to 𝐶𝐸𝐸 South. So now if I bring up the radio, I should be able to contact 𝐶𝐸𝐸 North. I go services, passenger boarding, and that's it. So we now have access. Now it says enter the station and go to the indicated track. But just like before, it doesn't really do a great job of telling you which track that is. So we've got some flashing yellows there. So yeah, it's 80 mile an hour down here. It picks up in speed really fast. I mean, that feels pretty fast to me. That kind of feels like 80 kilometers an hour. I'd believe that. Okay, so we need to start slowing down here. See, the speedo's dropped to 60. Next one will be 50. We're already below 50, so I'm just maintaining speed now. And what happens is you'll get fined for any speeding or mistake that you make. Right, so in 400 meters we do have a track change. Now I need to try and figure out which track I need to be on. There's nothing really telling me platform 1, 2, 3 or 4. So what I'm looking out for is a little orange indicator on the track itself. And then I'm trying to figure out which way to get there on the fly whilst I'm approaching it, which is not ideal, I have to say. You can see where the track ends, it's just there. But the draw distance on the track is quite far, I guess. Route to destination has been lost, it says. I think we're over on the left-hand side here. Yeah, I think we're on the left-hand side here. So I have to change this upcoming track to right so that it goes straight on. And that seems pretty good. Yeah, and I think we're going to roll into station on time. And that's another thing, another issue or concern or potential area for improvement. There are no timetables. I mean, this is the tutorial, so the career itself, it might introduce timetables. I don't know yet. But certainly in the tutorial there are no timetables. And if you're aiming this at hardcore train fans, that's something you're going to have to change. I don't think there's any self-respecting train fan out there who doesn't want to have proper timetables. I just can't see it. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a hardcore train fan. I do like trains. I've got, you know, a long history of enjoying trains, but yeah, I'm not the expert here. You guys are. This is more of a casual game, I'd say, but yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of potential. Like I say, I'd be willing to pay more to have a few of these extra little bits and bobs added to the game. But for £13, there's a lot of game here. Oh, I didn't put the handbrake on. Emergency brake, not handbrake, sorry. Emergency brake. Delivery complete. You gain 54 experience points and £3,684. Job done. Close the doors. Tutorial passenger / postage gameplay complete. So if I click this will now take me to the career. Like I say, if you want to watch some gameplay, some career gameplay footage, keep an eye on 𝐒𝐢𝐕 Ultimate Realism. That's where it'll be uploaded to. And I'll put together a review for this game once I have spent a bit more time with it and really got to understand its pros and cons. Maybe I'll have a look. If you guys got any information you can share with me, that'd be brilliant. Any links to what do they call it? Like a game plan for the game, an end product that they're trying to get to, including features and stuff. A map, I think it's called. Then that would be great. But yeah, I mean, this is all stuff I've got to go and check out myself. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this intuitive and informational rather than intuitive. The game itself is quite intuitive, but yeah, I think this game's got huge potential. I'd like to see it be a little bit more realistic. That's just my opinion. Maybe there is a gap in the market for casual train gameplay. I don't know, though. I could be wrong about that, because generally people who like trains like to be pretty precise. And I just fear that maybe this game is too arcadey. It's not really arcadey, but just missing some of that hardcore train sim element that will really tick the boxes for a lot of people. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this game? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Oh, before I go, Merry Christmas, everybody, and have a Happy New Year. Bye for now.